So, I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed reports.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
That was former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's reaction following the capture and brutal murder of Libyan President Muammar Gaddafi. According to some, the invasion of Libya was about protecting civilians. Others said it was about Libya's vast oil reserves. But everyone was convinced that it was all about currency, specifically Gaddafi's plan to introduce the gold dinar, a single African currency made from gold that would eventually replace the US dollar when trading with Africa. Many scholars have said that it's the kind of thing that one has to plan almost in secret and launch it when ready, because as soon as you say it, you'll have a bullseye on your back. You see, the world relies on the US dollar, giving America unparalleled economic dominance. Nearly 90% of all international currency transactions are in dollars. 60% of foreign exchange reserves are held in dollars, and almost 40% of the world's debt is issued in US dollars. This gives the United States extraordinary power over nearly anyone who imports or exports anything, anywhere. Hillary Clinton's victory lap was explained as mission accomplished for the US NATO intervention following reports of mass atrocities under Gaddafi's regime. It was later revealed that President Obama himself had asked his advisors to draw up options including a new military front in Libya, and the Defense Department was reportedly standing ready with the full spectrum of ground military operations required. Unless you plead temporary insanity, you have to recognize the double standards. There were several other parts of the region in the Middle East and North Africa which pretty much needed humanitarian support, but which the West either ignored or didn't really pay the same amount of attention to. And so the world watched as Western armies pummeled Libya with bombs with the pretext of humanitarian intervention. But the 2016 publication of Clinton's emails revealed another agenda behind the Libyan war, one which it seems was achieved: prevention of the demise of the American buck, as well as prevention of the creation of the independent hard currency in Africa that would have freed the continent from its economic bondage, an outstanding rival to the dollar and the euro, and put an end to the exploitative French African franc. In the months leading up to the military intervention in 2011, Gaddafi called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would ensure they sell their oil and other natural resources around the world for only gold dinars. It is an idea that would have shifted the economic balance of the world, as countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many US dollars they trade or stash. To give some quick context, it is banks, not governments, that create most of the money in Western economies. Originally, all currencies in the world reserves were in gold, but in 1933, President Franklin Roosevelt replaced gold domestically with central bank-created reserves, but gold remained the reserve currency for other currencies worldwide. In 1944, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank were created in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to unify this bank-created money system globally. This is when 44 countries agreed that the US dollar would be the global currency. Effectively, this meant that the money supply was now created privately as debt at an interest. This system requires a continuous supply of debtors, and over the next half-century, most developing countries, mostly Africa, wound up in debt to the IMF. The loans came with strings attached, including structural adjustment programs that basically stagnated growth of their economies. Under the agreement, the US dollar was pegged to gold, while other global currencies were pegged to the US dollar. When the United States was no longer able to maintain the